Rudy often said that a spiritual life begins with making your bed in the morning. And so many people try to divorce their inner spiritual life from their material life. In fact, you meet many people who really try to retreat from the world. And that very avoidance of the world is what in many ways obstructs people. So many of us want to avoid suffering, want to avoid attachment, want to avoid all the things that keep us from feeling happy, content, blissful, connected to God. And there's a real feeling that spiritual life is somehow contained within the temple or the church, that you have to go somewhere to get it, that you have to change your behaviors to have it, and that the problem with life and daily life is that it's sloppy, it's unpredictable, it's potentially harmful to you, and that the ultimate safety would be in some kind of cloistered, get away from it all situation. What I loved about Rudy when I met him was that he allowed me to have a life. He allowed me to live. When I was in India, I remember going to these ashrams with these obelisks in the middle of the ashram, carved with all the things you couldn't do, including dancing, having sex, on and on and on, eating meat. Just long lists of no. And I said, well, if that's what it is, I don't want it. It's not the spiritual life I'm looking for. And I didn't know if it was possible to find a spiritual life that didn't deny you just about everything that brought you pleasure. And then I met Rudy, and he basically said, take it on. Take on life. And of course, what happens when you take on life is that it brings everything to you. Meaning, pleasure and pain, joy and sorrow, everything that life is. It all comes at you. And what do most of us do when it comes at us is rather simple. We grab onto the happy, pleasurable, joyful parts of our life, and we do everything we can to deny, avoid, ignore, or prevent all of the hard stuff. And that creates a kind of desire aversion mechanism in us that ultimately tends to run not only our lives, but the lives of everyone we know. Rudy was very, very smart to recognize that if you don't have your life in order, trying to avoid a disordered life is going to cause you grief, real grief. A disordered life is a life that doesn't work. And a life that doesn't work is, for many people, the life that you want to get away from. And so what you do is you take a disordered, dysfunctional life and try to bring it into the spiritual life, and what you end up with is a disordered and dysfunctional spiritual life. Because you never got it together. You never got your life together. So getting your life together, starting with making your bed in the morning, seemed to Rudy a very reasonable approach to the whole picture. Have a successful, real life. Successful doesn't mean attainment. And that has to be understood. Some people think you have to attain a lot in order to have happiness, joy, or a feeling of fulfillment. Most people who live to old age and find any kind of wisdom discover that the attainment is like a little resume on a piece of paper that ultimately you just put in a file drawer. All these years of attainment, and what have you got? A list of things on a credit sheet or a bio sheet. That's what you've got. But what you're really looking for in fulfillment and attainment is a sense of being full, having taken from life, having had a rich and rewarding life. And a rich and rewarding life may have to do with stuff that you do, it may have to do with the resume, partly, but it's not with what's on the paper, it's the experience of creating the resume. It's the experience of moment-to-moment living. Being alive, touching the world, experiencing the world, learning from the world, eating at the table, learning what tastes good, what doesn't taste good, being willing to go through the things you are afraid of, that you don't understand, learning more, experiencing love, experiencing drama, all of that stuff is very filling. You really start to taste the whole banquet of life. And that banquet of life is nurturing. It's amazing. It has endless tastes, endless tastes. And as you taste all of that, and you become connected to all of that, you experience two things. One is attachment to everything that you've tasted, and fear of losing it, or much of it. You build, this is what I want to have, this is what I don't want. You have two piles. This is what I love about life, this is what I can't stand about life. And you have these two opposing forces, and in that you try to build into the parts you like, and you try to diminish the parts you don't like. And you try to have a life that satisfies you. And here's the problem. The you that you are satisfying is a transitory, temporary concoction that was assembled mostly by you when you were a child. So there's a you that you know that has a name that really started out, and I'm watching it now with my granddaughter. You say something that gets attention and people go, oh wow, that's so wonderful, beautiful, and you own it. Or they spank you for something and you don't want that. And you begin to build this character, you begin to build this persona, this personality. And some of us are more perverse than that, so when you get spanked you go to that one because that at least got a lot more attention that you like than the kind of mild little stuff that, oh that's sweet honey, that's nice. And so you start to go toward the stuff that makes you who you are. And this person who you are, who you think you are, who you have constructed to be you, who all of your friends help to construct, who all of your teachers help to construct, this person that you are is this truly temporary construct. And we don't know it as temporary, we think of it as permanent. We think of, this is who I am. And after you get to a certain age, the who I am is a very weighty construct. It's got a lot of stuff behind it. There's a lot of baggage in it. And this thing is trying to still live the life of what gives you pleasure and what do you want to avoid. And this dialogue between these two dynamic forces is always in play, and it's always creating pleasure and pain. Always. Pleasure, pain. And you're always avoiding and seeking, avoiding and seeking. And then all these horrible things start to happen as you get old. All the things that gave you pleasure start to put on a lot of weight. And the things that you love most about life, like a full night of sleep, disappears. Your sexual life will change dramatically. Everybody's does. Everything that was the things you were pursuing are no longer functioning and giving you what you were looking for. And the pain part, the stuff you were avoiding, starts to become a bigger part of the picture. It weighs on you more. The disappointments, the lack of attainment, the fact that what you love is moving away somewhere else, the fact that the stuff you thought you were going to have in life is not materializing, that the dreams now are starting to disappear. That's what happens for people. So there is a preponderance of suffering and darkness as you get older, as opposed to the joys for most people. For most people. And so you become more and more sequestered in this kind of attempt to have the little bit of pleasure that's left, and you're hiding more and more from the truth of your life, which is that it is changing, diminishing, falling away, or causing you a lot of unhappiness. Somewhere in this mix comes the idea that if I become a spiritual person, that's where my new happiness and joy and bliss will reside. It can actually come at you very early in life, but usually it's a later thing for many people. Or they turn to religion. They turn to the solace of, this world sucks, but that one may be the answer. So you can start to put all of your attention into the future world, whereas those who take meditation want to find it now. Let me find the bliss of now. Meditation promises you this thing that you will now have, this ability to be happy in the midst of all of your loss and suffering. It even tries to tell you that you can learn to let go of your suffering, that you can live a life that's very blissful. And in truth, the experience of meditating offers a doorway into that experience. When you sit in this particular class or in your own private meditation, you sit down. In our practice, you take a breath into your heart and you ask inside for help to surrender. You take a breath into your navel chakra and you ask again for help to surrender. And you feel this expansion. You feel this newness, this bigness. If you're lucky, you feel this blissful quality, this release of all of your drama, all of your stuff. And for about 10 minutes in an hour or 5 minutes in a half hour, you feel something so wonderful that it now becomes the new bliss that you want in life. You can forget Hershey bars, and you can forget ice cream sundaes. You can try, and you can go into meditation bliss. And it's really joyful. It's really beautiful. You really love it. And the problem with it, like everything else in life, is that after you've done sitting, you go back in the world and it's gone. You don't have time to sit for half an hour or an hour every 10 minutes. You can't keep working your way back into this state of being blissful. So you have to wait until the next morning when you sit to meditate, or you have to wait until the next class you go to where this thing will occur for you. And what really is taking place is you've created a new false paradigm. That meditation is this new gift that you are going to give yourself that will have this capacity to give you the joy that life is not giving you. and then it works, but temporarily. It works temporarily. So what do you do? What do you do about this temporary joy that you're able to get? Well, you actually are quite willing, if you really touch the core of meditation, you're quite willing to begin to seek it a lot during the day. You're going to try to go, okay, I'm not feeling good right now. I want to feel better. I want to feel different. I want to feel joy. I'm going to reach for this condition that gives me happiness. And you really reach for it, and what takes place is you may touch it for a minute. And you go, oh, yeah, oh, God, oh, yeah. Oh, I'm peaceful again. Oh, now I'm a meditator and I'm a spiritual person. And what takes place then is that you have to always make this effort to get somewhere that you're not. And you have to keep working your way into this thing and working your way into this thing. Is this a bad thing? No. This is not a bad thing. This is actually, it's a real thing. But here's the problem. And let me explain it because it's very simple. You think you are arriving at a place of peace and joy that you can have through an effort of getting there. What's really happening is that meditation is a letting go of everything. And you are arriving not at a place that you can have, you are actually arriving at a place that always is. You are arriving at a true place of, if you can get there, this true place of surrender, as Rudy said, help me to surrender, to let go of all of this stuff, all of the attachment, all of the things that are binding you. You just let go and you relax into your true nature. It's not something you attain, it's something you let go of. You attain, attainment means you have something, letting go means you are something. Spiritual truth, this deep sense of abiding presence, this deep joy and bliss are at the root of your existence. They're the very core of your existence. It's by letting go of everything that you truly arrive at who you and what you are. Meditation has this quality of being temporary. It's an achievement that you have during a sit or during a class that you wish to prolong it, but in a certain sense you become experienced in having it for brief periods. The idea that you would have it for prolonged periods, or that you would have it forever, is an attraction that doesn't fully explain itself at first. And by that I mean, to truly have infinite bliss, if you want to call it that, you have to permanently let go of everything. So it's a bit of a bargain that you're not exactly ready for. Most people who come to meditation and go, oh, it's so wonderful, if I could only have this for a little bit longer. You can. But you have to be willing to let go of the other stuff. You have to be willing to let it go. And letting go feels like an act that you're doing. I am letting it go. I am letting something go. The truth is, you can't let it go. It will, of its own nature, fall away. It all starts to fall away. And here's the problem. As it starts to fall away, you go, oh, don't go! Don't go! No, that's me, that's my identity, that's who I am. That I wouldn't be anybody without that. I don't want to have this bliss if I can't be there to enjoy it. And that's the problem. That's the problem. You can't be there to enjoy it. You are the bliss itself. There is nobody there to have it. And the bargain you make when you begin a spiritual journey is that you will allow you to fall by the wayside, and you will allow your true self to shine forth. You don't know you're making that bargain. Most people who start a spiritual journey want to have peace. They want to have bliss. It will not work that way. You will have moments and tastes of that. And those moments and tastes are very seductive. And they are very seductive because they are tasting reality and truth and the very essence of you. But it's just a taste. The real absorption in all of that is by letting all of that in you which wants to have it fall away. It's a kind of melting of an iceberg is how I look at it. And in the beginning, you kind of shave away little pieces of the iceberg or little bits of them melt, and you kind of feel a little bit lighter and a little bit more illuminated, if you will. And then a lot of people who start to feel that walk around going, hey, I'm illuminated, I'm spiritual, I've got this thing. And you're so full of shit, but you really are not aware of that. And then if you're really pursuing this, and I mean seriously pursuing it, you have these things that can happen, which I call the breaking away of huge chunks of the iceberg. They go, wah! And then there's these either little pieces of it or just slivers of ice still there, going, that's all that's left. And believe me, those little slivers still make a lot of noise. They still attract your attention. But you are disappearing. You are melting away. True awakening is this sense of there is no iceberg. You are the ocean from which that iceberg arose. That's who you are. The journey back to that is absolutely natural. It happens to all of us. It's called birth and death. In the process of being born and becoming alive, you are already in the process of dying and letting it go. The problem is you're not in sync with that process. So as you are being born and becoming alive and holding on to all the joys and pleasures and amazements of that experience, it's already starting to dissipate. And you're going, whoa, wait a minute, whoa, I don't want that to happen. I don't want it to fall away. It's built in. It's built in. Death, melting, if you will. Oh, I'm melting. The melting is really part of this whole drama. It has to happen. It has to take place. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to let go. You don't have to do anything. It will just happen. But if you surrender and go, this is what it is, if you just open to this process, it will take place. And it will take place and it will liberate you from the drama of you, from the drama of being an iceberg. It will just happen. You will return to the ocean of being that you have always been. Or, if you're really lucky in this or blessed in this, you will become aware of the ocean of being even before the iceberg finishes melting. How does that happen? I do not know. All I know is it happens. You can wake up and go, oh my God, this is an iceberg that's melting. And you watch it and you feel it. And you have days where you go, this hurts. I don't like this. This hurts. This crevice here doesn't feel good. And yet, you look at it and go, there it is. And trust me, things are going to come at you in life and they won't be feeling like icebergs. They'll have names like, heart disease. Or, need a new hip. Or whatever it is that starts to come into your life. That's part of the melting. And you're either going to go, why me, God? Or you're going to go, I'm melting. This is what happens. It's how it works. And you actually have to go through that whole thing. And there's no avoiding it. There's no avoiding it. So, if you go to spiritual life to say, oh God, let me be a spiritual person so my hip doesn't have to be replaced, and I don't have to have heart disease, and I don't have to die. What a piece of shit. You can't do that. You can do it, but to what effect? You're only going to be disappointed and angry at God because it's a process. You are going to be brought back into the ocean of being, one way or the other. And you can either observe that whole process and observe it with a kind of amazement, because it's as amazing being constructed as it is amazing being deconstructed. It's still an extraordinary thing that's going on here. And you get to watch it and go, wow, wow. My granddaughter has just learned that word. She goes, wow. and it's such a joy to watch that, because she really means it. Wow. But we don't always remember what it is to have that incredible awareness. And that's what being in the ocean of being gives you. It's awareness, consciousness. And so you watch your own false self. This false is a bad word, but the created, manifested self appear and disappear. Some people call it a wave in the ocean. That's almost a better image, because it rises out of the ocean and goes, look at me. Look at me. Look what I am. I'm this thing. And then it goes, and it's gone. And they keep happening. And they happen rather quickly, as do our lives. And you understand that as you get to a certain point. You really get it. This was not a very long thing. This was like whoop, whoop. And there's all this stuff that went on in the middle of it that was very involving while it was happening. And then it's just gone. It's gone. And if you have the awakening thing, then you go, what a beautiful thing this is. What a beautiful thing. This ocean of being rising up, forming these beautiful crystalline structures that are so gorgeous, and they come into being and they dissipate, and you watch them go out and you go, that was a ride. That was something. Or better, that this is amazing. And that's what it's all about. But so let me throw this back very quickly to what I started with, which is this thing that Rudy said, spiritual life is making your bed in the morning. Spiritual life is attending to what is happening. That wave is coming up, and there you are, and you work with it. You don't hide from it. You don't say someone else will do it. Or that, it doesn't really matter, I'm going to get in bed anyway tonight, so why should I make the bed? And then you're always getting into this sloppy bed. You create a life, a life that is really an exquisite wave. It's a beautiful wave. Otherwise, it's a it's a false wave. It's a wave that has no power and no beauty. You see them all the time. They go, and it's really sad. You could have this amazing life, but it's only going to be a wave, and it's only going to be short-lived. And if you create a great wave, there will be surfers riding you for a huge, like a mile of the length of your being. And if you're a little nothing wave, it'll be nothing. But enjoy it, and also be true to it, live it. The wave is all you got at the moment. I mean, it's not totally true because you got the whole ocean, but you have this manifested thing that you are. And we're all now in this very funny, stormy time. We're all in a time where there's economic stress, let's say. There's worldly problems. I mean, it's probably always like that, but we have so much information now that we're all connected to all the world's problems, not just our own. So it's good and bad because we see that we're all in it together, and it's bad because we're so aware of it. But here we are. We're in the world of created, manifested form. We can live it elegantly and compassionately, reach out to others, share our love, be part of the whole, or we can just be in it and be sloppy and miserable and cause grief for ourselves and grief for others, which starts with not making your bed in the morning. Make your bed in the morning, you will be attentive, you will be kind, you will love people around you, you will have a life of caring where the details are meaningful, where you do what needs to be done, or you live a life that's just sloppy and just untenable, and it's over. Your choice, really your choice. But one way or the other, you have come into being, you're here. This is a unbelievable, almost miraculous experience. As much as it hurts, as much as it's wonderful, it's just short-lived. It's going to come down. It's already coming down for all of us. It starts coming down the minute you're being born. It's already over even as it's constructed. Have fun. Enjoy it as best you can. I use a word that's very hard for Blanche and I. It's called divest. Let it go. You know, we have acquired a life of so much stuff that it's embarrassing. And it's really weighty, and it's heavy, and it's hard. And you don't need it all. We don't need it all. We're convincing ourselves of this as we speak. It's really, life is, you get so much, but you cannot, as they say, take it with you. And as I say in Ghost, the love inside, you take that with you. So if you've just built a life full of stuff and no love, you're going to take nothing with you. The love goes with you. The love fills you up. The love is everywhere. And if you arrive back into the ocean of love with no love, the problem with that is that the pain of seeing how much love was always there that you didn't have, that you didn't bring into manifestation, that you don't bring back from manifestation, is of unbearable sadness. The failure to have loved, the failure to have known love, the failure to have not given love is a great suffering. So as you return to love, it's like, it's like that. And that for people is called hell, unfortunately. You know, you see how little love you had. So this is an opportunity in life to have and fill yourself and share this love with each other. That's what it is. And also, deeply and importantly, with yourself. To love yourself. Because if you love yourself, what you realize is you're loving the very ocean from which you've come, and your love for yourself is in fact the ocean of love loving you. That's really all it is. It's love itself loving itself. That's what love is. The more love you have, the more in touch you are with that force. And as the old line goes, God is love. It's exactly what it is. Love is the very essence of the creation, or the very experience, if you will, of creation. I can go back before that. I probably shouldn't do that, but I will tell you, even that love comes out of something that is very impenetrable for most people, which is nothing. It comes out of nothing. And at some point, if you go deep enough, you pass through the love into nothing. You don't need the love there, because it gave birth to love. You know, that's stuff the mind's not going to deal with, so we don't have to really go there. But let me just say, live your life consciously, lovingly, beautifully. Design it as best you can. Accept it the way it goes. It's going to be strange and sloppy and unexpected. It's going to surprise you with wonder. It's going to disappoint. It's going to give you stuff and it's going to take it away. It's going to make you joyous. It's going to make you sad. It's going to do all of the above. If you're a great poet, you write poems to all of this, and it's like exquisitely beautiful. If you're like most people, you know, it's just like, oh God, this is hard. But it is both things. It is both beautiful and hard. Rudy would even call it brutal. But it's real, and you're alive in it, and it is what it is, and you have everything to gain from touching it and going through it and not hiding away in a monastery or an ashram trying to avoid it. It wants to express itself to you and through you. You are alive in the moment. You are here right now. It's to be alive. To be alive is everything. And you are. So don't miss it. Don't miss it. Don't meditate it away. Find the core that comes out of meditation and live the ocean of love and the person you are as a being of love, and let that be a reflection of the core that you have arisen from and returned to. Really, it's just about how do I get through the day, and that's your choice. It can be absolutely wondrous and beautiful, or it can be, get me out of here. I want it to be beautiful. The lesson, I think, of this talk and the lesson of this work, the lesson that Rudy gave us, is have a great time. Take it on. Love it. You're here. Any questions?
Yes. From your perspective, do you think that because of a certain attitude, you choose more one aspect versus another aspect? Do you think that because of a life embracing or positive attitude, you choose to live more of that?
It's a really good question. We were talking about that before class, and it was really interesting. I think Arkady and I were talking about the DNA of being Jewish and worrying. This nature of, you've come from a tribe of people who've been, God knows what, attacked and decimated over and over and over, and we're not the only population, but one of them. And it gets built into the system. There's this worry thing that gets built into the system, and I definitely have come out of that. And I know what that is, and I think we all have predispositions to certain kind of world views or life views. And I think what happens is, for me, meeting Rudy and meditating allowed me to do this thing of, what meditation does is it expands your vision. It opens you up in a certain way that you would not necessarily have known about. You start to see this bigger self. And as you come back into the world, you come back with more and more of that larger truth. And that truth begins to affect the tribal DNA. It changes you in some way, so that you are no longer completely limited by that from which your body, mind, personality, etc. arose. You are affected by, impacted by this extraordinary larger truth that wipes all that other stuff out. Almost. There are still DNA elements. You still have a body. You still have an emotional system. You have all these things in place. They are going to still function as they function. So I have to look at myself and I go, oh, that's Bruce worrying again. But it doesn't mean that the worrying's not there. But I do have a perspective on that. Sometimes I don't. But most of the time I can kind of single it out because I have a larger self, if you will, aware of the smaller self. And that's really what comes about out of meditation practice. And in awakening, so much falls away. So much that it's really what I call the elemental parts of yourself that seem to survive awakening. And those are related almost entirely to the body. Because as long as the body is there, there are the elemental things of fear and hope and pleasure and pain. All that's still there. It's just not yours. If that makes sense. It's not yours. It's just there. Christ was very afraid of dying. This guy had, he was totally awake, but that body was not willing to go through a crucifixion. We're still elemental, every one of us, and those deep elements will still be in play, but you will also be at the same time this awareness that goes, oh yeah, that.
Just as a follow-up, speaking of Jews, there was this fascinating segment on the news about superagers. And they took this man who was 107 years old, working in his office. His sister lived to 109. His brother is a baby at 105. His son walked in at 69 with an unlined face. And they said they found something common in all superagers. They were content. That was the basic element of their life. But this particular group of superagers, they were studying Ashkenazi Jews, who seemed to have this strain of a gene called CGBT, and they're trying to focus on that because they live not only long but healthy lives. And it's interesting because I looked at it and said, really, Ashkenazi Jews, my people drop like flies, but these people are the superagers. So is it that CGBT, or is it the contentment they feel and the usefulness that they feel throughout their life?
Well, you know, it's kind of luck of the draw. You know what tribe you get in. Some tribes are, you know, they have good gene pools, and some don't. And I don't know how or why that occurs. I don't think anybody does. But you know, there's no reason why pulling that out of the hat isn't going to be a wonderful gift. The idea of contentment is terrific, but contentment is sometimes learned. Sometimes it's just passed on. If you come from families where who love you, embrace you, and are themselves content, chances are that will be perpetuated. I was saying earlier that my grandfather, at the age of 102, would call his daughter Clara at the age of 80 when she was driving home to make sure she got there okay. You know, that was passed on in my gene pool. You know, are you going to be okay? You know, it's like I wasn't given contentment. I think people who are given contentment are very fortunate, I suppose. Anybody else? Okay, thank you guys. See you next time.